So, today's video, we will be looking at how to use trigonometry to find the unknown side on a triangle. How do we use trigonometry? Well, first we need to remember this phrase. So, ka, toa. It may look like nonsense at first, but if you break these into separate parts, with each part being 3 letters long, and assume that H stands for hypotenuse, A stands for adjacent, and O stands for opposite. Then we can draw on a right-angled triangle. Here's our right angle, and here's our given angle. Hypotenuse would be the side directly opposite the right angle, H. Adjacent would be the other angle that's next to our given angle that isn't H, so that's here. And then O would be the one directly opposite our given angle, here. So what SOHCAHTOA means is which of the two are we given. If we're given O and we're asked to find H, or vice versa, we'd use SO, with S standing for the sine, C standing for cos, and T standing for tan on your calculators. So if we're given the opposite and the hypotenuse, we'd use sine. If we're given adjacent and hypotenuse, we'd use cos. And if we're given opposite and adjacent, we'd use tan. So now let's look at our first question and put this into practice. So here's our right angle, and here's our given angle, and our given side, and our unknown side. Our unknown side is opposite our given angle. So we've got O, and our given side is opposite our right angle. So we've got H as it's a hypotenuse. And when we have O and H, the only other letter is S. So we're using the sine function. So how do we use the sine function? Well, if we use these 3 letters, we can draw a triangle, an equations triangle, which looks like this. So we can say that O is equal to S times H is equal to O divided by S, and S is equal to O over H. However, since in this video we're only trying to find the length of sides, we will only be using these first 2 equations. So we won't need this one. Meaning, since our unknown side is the opposite, we'll need this first one here. So we can say that X is equal to sine 68 times 15. If we put that into our calculators, we would get a length of 13.9. Which makes sense, since we know that the hypotenuse is always the longest side on a triangle, and therefore the opposite side cannot be larger than 15. So 13.9 is a reasonable answer. Now let's look at question 2. If this is our given angle, and our unknown is the hypotenuse, since it's directly opposite, and this is adjacent to the given angle, we've got AH, which means we use cosine. So we've got CAH as our triangle, and if we're looking to find H, we can say that H is equal to A over C, which means that if we write this out, we get X is equal to 8.1 over cos 72, which is equal to 26.21. .21 is our answer. Now let's look at question 3. Our given angle is 40. Our given side is opposite 40. And our unknown is adjacent to 40. So we're using the tan function. As an equation triangle, it looks like this. And since we're trying to find the adjacent, we know that A is equal to O over T. Hence, that gives us x is equal to 3.8 over tan 40. Put that into our calculators. And you get a length of 4.5 centimeters. And these triangles are not to scale, which is why x appears shorter than 3.8. Now, our unknown is a hypotenuse, directly opposite there, the right angle, and then our given angle is 58, which is directly opposite our given side. So we're using the sine function. Draw out our triangle, SOH, and if we're trying to find h, we get O over S, which means that x is equal to 6.5 over sine 58. Pop that into our calculators, and you get 7.7 centimeters. And again, since our hypotenuse is the longest side, and 7.7 is longer than 6.5, that's a reasonable answer. Finally, let's look at question 5. Our unknown side is again the hypotenuse. This time, we have the adjacent as our given side, meaning we're using the cosine function. CAH. And if we're looking for h, we need to work out A over C. And this means that x is equal to 12 over cos 41. Into our calculator, that gives us 15.9 centimeters. And once again, as 15.9 is our hypotenuse, we know that this is a reasonable answer. It's always worth checking that when we've got a hypotenuse involved, that if the hypotenuse is not the longest side, we know we've gotten something wrong. Although it is still possible to be wrong with the hypotenuse as the longest side. Anyways, here's a final question for you to try at home. Attempt the question and leave what you think is the answer down below in the comments, and I'll tell you if you're right. If you found this video useful, please leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more similar videos.